Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Mark Isaac Potter Presents. Today, I have a little bit of a clue, but not a whole lot. I want to make sure and be gracious to my dear friend Fredric, who's been on at least once before. Yeah, a bunch of it's more than that. It's more than that. But anyway, I was having some problems earlier in the day, some personal stuff. And I emailed Frederick in a panic. I think it was, and he very graciously decided to come on and just help me talk through it a little bit. And bear in mind, he and I have only known each other for what, maybe a few months, 2 or 3 months, maybe.
Yeah,
What do you think? Okay,
2 or 3 months. Yeah.
so yeah, so I got into. I'm going to lower my voice because the other person is in this house. I got into a thing with my housemate, and even though a lot of it was my own making, I still feel like there's two parts to every story. So I don't know quite what to say, really. The kind of the bottom line part is that I pay what I think is a lot of money to live here, and not only pay my rent, but I pay for the internet and all the streaming services, and I pay about $200 extra a month for heat. Now, bear in mind, I do use a lot of heat, but still, I pay extra for that, and pay for half of the groceries. It just piles up, and it the number is probably not high if you look at all over California, but it's certainly $300 or $400 more than I paid at the previous place, although the previous place I lived was quite a dump, and this is nice, much nicer, like way nicer.
Mhm.
So I don't know. In a way, I'm kind of glad it happened because I feel like I don't say enough on my own behalf. I don't stand up for myself hardly ever. I mean,
Hmm.
and even though the way I did it was probably inappropriate, I still am kind of glad I tried to stand up for myself. And it's not that the number's going to change any. I don't think that's going to happen unless I were to move, and it wouldn't. Like I say, it's probably $200 or $300 a month, so it's probably not. In the long run, it's probably not worth moving unless something additional thing happens.
Mhm.
I did call a friend. I've lived in a lot of group homes because of my mental illness.
Okay.
And here I'm living in a very nice, I like mobile homes. Some people don't, but I'm living in a very nice mobile home community for seniors.
Hmm.
Um, so it's one of the nicer places I've ever lived, frankly. So, you know, would like to hang on to it if I can.
Okay.
And I think my friend will do that because she feels like she would lose her place if she didn't have a renter.
Got it.
Because her husband passed away 4 or 5 years ago now, and
Uh-huh.
he was the breadwinner.
Ah,
And so
yeah.
when I lived in the last group home, she had called me and said, please move in. It'll be so nice. You can help me save my mobile home, all that. She'd apparently run through all the savings, and so I didn't know whether it was a good idea. I couldn't. We've known each other probably 30 years, and we're friends. We're not
Yeah, sure.
friends. Yeah. So I did move in about 2.5 years ago, and it's been very good. I mean, like I say, I am the kind of person who is very generous, and I quickly give people more money than they asked for. I mean, I've always done that for some reason. Just
Okay.
out of wanting to have an abundance of fairness and like that.
Right.
Uh, so, so I don't know. It'll probably be okay. Uh, it just really, I started yelling, which you're not really supposed to do hardly ever in life, I think. So that's not good. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Just I've always been. Oh, I lost you. How did I lose you? That's interesting. Okay. Well, I'm going to keep recording, but I'm also going to look for Fredric here. There he is. I lost you there for a minute, and I didn't know where you went.
Yeah. The system just, my
You
system just locked.
you just decided you were so handsome that you couldn't be on the same screen with me. I know how
That
that
was
is.
it. Well, my system, Zoom sometimes has its own ideas about
Oh,
Zoom. We're finished.
yeah, all Zoom does that. But anyway, so I feel like in the long run it'll probably be a good thing because I did stand up for myself, and it does make the point that I'm really maxed out on how much I pay for everything now.
Right,
So I don't, so if some other additional thing comes up, because before I moved here, she paid for her own streaming, her own
right.
Wi-Fi, and anyway, so I don't know. You have anything to say, Dr. Frederick, or just
Well, Mark, I
not
think,
really?
yeah, the situation you're in is actually somewhat, it's not uncommon of,
Okay,
and
okay,
people work coming together to share costs in living and things like that because
yeah,
it's expensive. And I think that I'm speaking for myself, my operating guideline is one, what can people do? What's within what's within their capabilities?
okay,
And second is what they are capable of doing on balance, still reasonable given the circumstances.
okay,
And so reasonableness is a judgment call. So,
yeah,
for example, for what is I have my older son who's 40 as of 2 days ago.
okay,
He lives at home. Okay.
all right,
He has
okay,
his own bedroom downstairs.
right, right,
Now, he pays a modest amount of money
right,
each month for living here.
yeah,
Now, we could probably tell him he should increase the amount of money,
yeah,
but the fact is that his contribution balances against what he does and what he's
yeah,
capable of doing.
right, okay, good, good, good,
And and if see if you would leave, in my mind, the alternative then would be that she then takes the whole burden of all the money.
right.
And that could be a burden that may not work out for her either.
Yeah, no, I'm very cognizant of that
Right.
because we are
So
good friends.
yeah, so I think you do what you can, and if it becomes somehow unbalanced, and by
Yeah,
unbalanced, I don't mean equality, unbalanced meaning somehow it's not working that what you contribute is able to make her sustain what she has
yeah,
in the thing, then you have to work it out. But
yeah,
I think as long as you're being open and honest and doing what you can, clearly, if you had more revenue and you had more cash, you would probably do more.
I really would. I'm just built that way. I don't know why, but it seems antithetical because I've rarely met any other humans who give away what they have so freely and have such a hard time acquiring anything, you know. But I don't know. I'm an odd duck, but
Well,
I've come to know that that's true about myself over the last Let's see now. I think now
I
I'm
think
23, so yeah.
it's good to cherish the fact that you're not a duck. And and no,
Thank
seriously.
you. I
And
love when I quote you on that, probably. I like your quotes at the end of your email, by the way.
oh,
I'm
really?
gonna put some of those in the description box of some of your shows.
Okay, you mean the difference between excuse and explanation?
Well, there was two or three. There wasn't just one.
Yeah, but there's a story
The
behind it.
one about the excuse. Okay, okay,
Here,
good.
here's the story.
Okay.
So back in the days when we had live classes, remember those days?
Uh, yes, I'm not as old as you, but I'm close. So,
Yeah. So I was teaching one of my classes at Johns Hopkins, and
right.
the way my classes run, I
Mm.
assign about 30 to 40 articles to read over the course of the semester, plus 3 books.
Oh, God
The,
Almighty. Okay.
the students say it's the most reading they've ever had to do in any
Yeah,
course in life.
I
But
believe it.
but
Yeah.
but here's what happened. I get up I'm in the class and I call on somebody and they say, Mr. Wilson, he's sitting in the back row.
Right. Of course,
Mr.
trying to
Wilson,
hide out.
yeah, tell us tell us what this article says. And
Oh, God.
he looks at me silent. I said, what's the matter? He said, I didn't do the work. And then he says something else. And I said to him, and then right off the top, I said, tell me the difference between an excuse and an explanation. He said, what? I said, tell me what you think the difference is between an excuse and an explanation. And he
Ah.
said, well, they're really the same. I said, no. An excuse is asking permission for me to let you do it again. An explanation is a statement of what happened. I said,
Oh,
there are no acceptable excuses, only explanations. And I was thinking of some film, and I can't remember the film, but
yeah.
one of these comedies with, I think, Jack Lemmon.
Right.
And I said, and that's it. Things happen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, like, even now, like, if I forget to do something, I will send you the person, I forgot.
Yeah, yeah.
And they say,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
it's not an
Yeah.
excuse. It's a
Yeah.
statement of
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very much like that too partly because I took a lot of communication training as a younger, in my late 20s. Anyway, I want to thank you for helping today. I am
I
hoping.
want to share one more thing with you
Yes,
to
sir. Well,
share
we can
with
stay
people.
on. I just don't want to take up too much of your
No, it's
time.
okay. Um, there's a film, and I temporarily have forgotten the name of it, about Alan Turing, the
Oh
computer,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There
Okay.
was, yeah.
Yeah. So it's about him and the Germans and the Enigma thing.
Right. No, I've heard that there is such a film. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the film, he was a bisexual. So
Yes.
he was
I
married, but he was homosexual
I've
too.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
Right. So he was put in jail by the British government for being a homosexual.
Okay.
But at the end of the movie, the person playing his wife is talking to him, and she says this: sometimes it is the people nobody thinks anything of who do the things that no one can imagine.
Oh,
I said, that has got to be one of the great statements.
I'm glad I've
Right?
got that on camera. That's beautiful. That's yeah, and I've always lived my life in a way that I feel like I'm making a contribution. I mean, God knows I'm trying to
Yes,
make one. Like I've given away 500 or 600 shows over the last 20 years.
right.
And I do a lot of volunteer work and all kinds of stuff. So I want to live my life in a way that I feel like, okay, I did my best. I tried whatever my best. My best is
No,
not that good, but
no, I think
at
you're doing
least
it,
if I
Mark.
tried my best, why,
And,
that's,
and along similar lines, Mark. So you know that in my later life, I went back to law school to be a lawyer.
Oh, I didn't remember,
particularly
but you
yeah,
probably have told me. Oh,
in copyright law.
okay.
And I tell people, you have a question about copyright, call me. I'm happy to talk to you. And
Oh,
I don't start the clock because
okay.
just talking for 10 minutes is not a big
Yeah.
deal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But did I ever share the story of why I went to law school?
No, no, not that I remember, certainly.
Okay, so I was doing technology advising and consulting, and
Okay.
I went to lunch with a lawyer in DC, and we had a great lunch.
Okay.
And I have
I like great lunches.
what?
I like great lunches.
Yeah. So about 5 days later, I got a bill from him.
Oh,
And I said, "What are
what?
you sending a bill?" He said, "We talk business." I said,
Oh,
"Look,
Lord.
if we sit in your office and talk, you send me a bill. If we're
Yeah.
at lunch, there's no bill."
Yeah.
So I was teaching at American University in the business school, and right
Right.
next door was the law school. So
Okay.
I walked over to the law school that have admissions, and I said, "I want to go to law school." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because this lawyer sent me a bill for when we went to lunch." And he said, "That's a good reason." Okay. So I got into law school.
Oh my God. So how long was law school?
I did nights and I did it in a little more than 3.25 years because,
Seems fast for doing it as night school.
well, law school is usually 3 years,
Okay.
but I did it with yeah, but I did it at the pace because I would take multiple classes at night
Oh,
and
boy.
and it was good. I mean, I learned a lot, but it was also kind of opening my mind to another dimension of how we have to deal with issues
Yeah.
and solve
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah. I worked as a, well, not even a legal assistant, but I worked in a law office.
Oh,
And I did learn some good stuff from that man. He was a very, very wonderful, gentle guy, very antithetical to the prototype, you know what I'm trying
yeah,
to
yeah,
say,
I know what you mean.
prototype of an attorney. But I have a question about this because I also have another friend who passed who was a CPA. And both professions have this very long, arduous, terrible test that you have to take.
Yes,
And did you take that test? And
the
what
bar,
is that
the
experience
bar,
like?
the bar exam. Yeah.
Yeah, what is that like to have to sit there for hours and days and
Well,
uh,
I found the bar exam to be challenging, but I also found that it was pretty straightforward. That is,
huh.
they were very real about it.
So it wasn't like trick questions
No,
and
there wasn't a lot of trickery. And after I got my law degree, and this is a self-serving story, but you may find it interesting.
good.
One of the challenges with the bar exam is scheduling because
Okay.
they have it on a certain day, like usually like in August, and you could be in Brazil, but you have to come back. So I wrote an article
Right.
for the California bar examiners
Okay.
called "Artificial Intelligence and the Bar Exam."
Huh.
Now this is about
What year? Yeah, I was going to say, what year was that?
it was in the mid-90s. Okay,
Good
so
Lord.
it's about 30 years ago.
Wow.
But here's what I told them. I said, imagine instead of having all these people come into one room in a big convention center,
Right, right.
imagine having the bar exam online 24/7, run by an artificial intelligence system that so that people can't cheat. And they said, "What?" I said, "Why do you want people to have to be all in one
Yeah,
room? Why
yeah.
don't you just administer the bar exam using technology so that people can take it? And if they fail, they fail. And if they pass, they pass. But
Right,
that way they can take it at their own time, and you don't have
right.
to spend months preparing for this big event in
Right.
the auditorium.
Did they respond at all? And if so, what'd they say?
They thought it wasn't feasible.
Well, I bet it's a lot more, somebody's thinking about it more now, I'll bet.
I think it could work. I mean,
Yeah, I think,
but
yeah.
but I'm a guy who likes using technology to solve problems.
But to have that insight, God, that's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I just, I knew you were ambidextrous, but I didn't know you knew all that.
Oh, hey.
Because I really did not become aware of artificial intelligence until I would say 6 months ago, maybe. I mean, quantum physics, yes, I follow that in my own novice way, and science and
To
some of
me,
the other, but
well,
still, that, yeah. But
to me, quantum physics and AI are siblings.
yeah, and what is singularity is what? The merger of robot intelligence and humans into some,
Yeah,
because everybody's talking about singularity these days and
yeah,
how long it's going to take and all that.
yeah. But we have to get used to the idea that technology keeps moving,
Yeah. Oh, well,
and we have to adjust to it.
yeah. It's quite amazing because when you look at AI and quantum physics and then you think, well, someday we'll look back and this will be the old stuff. I
That's
can't,
right.
anyway. So
And for
I'm
what it's worth, Mark, I use ChatGPT like a researcher, having a graduate student work for me,
okay.
because I can ask it a question that I would ask a graduate student to go find out.
Okay.
And
And it'll do it.
a little piece of guidance, if you ever use ChatGPT and you put a question
Okay. Yeah.
at the end of the question in parentheses, put the
Okay.
following phrase
Okay.
with references,
Okay. Okay.
and it will actually tell you where it got the information,
Okay.
give you the
Very,
answer.
very nice. I will remember to do that.
Yeah, with references, and
Yeah.
that to do.
That's
Well,
good.
look, I hope that with just having a little bit of back and forth exchange
Yeah.
has you feeling a little better.
Thank you for helping, and it does actually, and I appreciate you so much. I'm questioning whether it was way too forward to ask you to do this, but we've
No,
already done it. So,
no, it wasn't too forward. Look,
anyway,
if you can't reach out to people to get help when you need it,
yeah,
then what are you going to do? You're going to sit in the dark and suffer, and that
yeah.
doesn't.
I saw a great quote, which I can't quote per se, but some gentleman on TikTok, which I'm on all day long, said, if you can't ask other people for help, it means something like you're not mature enough or you're not developed enough. And I saw it in a new light because I usually think of asking for help as somehow a downside thing, just
Right.
this person's busy and I am not capable enough, so I'm gonna. But this guy put it in a whole different light, like it's a positive thing to do, and even though it's a new idea to me, I'm letting it ferment in my back 40 in my mind. So
Okay.
take care.
Thank you very
God
much, Mark.
bless you. Thank
Have
you, sir. Thank
have a
you.
good afternoon,
All right,
and
folks.
keep
Yep.
me keep me posted, please.
I will. I will. God bless you, man. Take care. Thanks, everybody.
Bye bye.
All right.